Welcome to Editorial U, a compilation of information and resources on writing and editing for educational publishing. My name is Kim Kleeman, and I'm the president of Upgrade Education. We've assembled industry experts to lead you through the ins and outs of the learning curve for educational publishing. Free resources for this e-lecture, as well as products for students, educators, parents, and more, is available at our website at www.upgradeeducation.com.
Writing and preparing your files. Today we'll take a look at the components of a textbook and your role in creating them. This is the collected works of Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is a page spread. The right-hand page is called the recto. The left-hand page is called the verso. Typically, odd page numbers fall on recto pages and even page numbers fall on verso pages. The printed page number is usually called the folio. That helps us distinguish it from the physical number of pages, which might be different. At the beginning of the book is the front matter, such as the table of contents, or TOC, the introduction, and notes for educators. We often abbreviate front matter FM. These pages usually don't have numeric folios. They have letters or lowercase Roman numerals. At the end of the book is the end matter, or EM. It's also called back matter. EM consists of indexes, appendices, glossaries, supplemental lessons, and other resources. Getting into print. Now let's take a look at what goes into putting a book together. This book has been printed and bound. It has been laid out by graphic designers so that the typesetting and images enhance the content. Depending on the content, books have type features like headings, subheads, run-in heads, footnotes, and side notes that help your eye find information. If the book is a teacher's edition, it also contains the answers to all the questions in the student edition. We call these answers annos, short for annotations. Understanding your assignment. You need to start with a good understanding of your assignment. You'll need to know the book's main purpose, the book's educational approach, and the purposes your writing will serve. The book may be a reprint or a new edition of an already existing book. In that case, you'll rely heavily on the old edition. You may have to repurpose old content or convert an old lesson into a new one. Maybe there's a discussion on irony in the lesson on Othello, but in the new edition, it will be an extra credit activity on Hamlet. You'd need to repurpose the lesson on Othello so that it keeps the discussion of irony, but now refers to Hamlet. You may be asked to redact an old lesson. That means leaving the teaching intact, but revising the language. Maybe the lessons in the new edition are shorter, or the standard way of teaching the skill set has changed. Sometimes you'll be asked to pick up a lesson. When you pick up a lesson, you use the language almost word for word from the old edition. This means good news for you. When you pick up a lesson, it means less work. Plus, it also gives you an idea of what type of writing the publisher likes, so that when you do have to write new content, you'll have a standard to follow. Easiest of all is boilerplate. This is text that never changes, but must be included in certain places. Boilerplate might be marketing language that reminds teachers about supplemental teaching tools. Or it might be a prompt that tells students to work on certain questions. Whatever it is, just copy and paste it. Don't change a letter. Writing a lesson. As you write your lesson, you'll have a number of considerations to keep in mind. One consideration is leveling, or making text appropriate for different grade levels. You'll probably have to apply a readability measure to all or part of the lesson. The Fleisch-Kincaid scale is built into Word. Other scales include Dale-Schall, Spache, Fry, Lexile, and Upgrade's own readability solutions. They measure things such as syllables per word, words per sentence, and sentences per paragraph. Different scales are appropriate for different projects, depending on the grade level and the amount of subject-specific vocabulary. The project guideline should tell you which measure to use. Most scales are available online. Depending on the project, you may need to develop lessons that address different student populations, such as English language learners or advanced students. Lessons for struggling or reluctant students are always in demand. Think of creative ways to pique students' interest. You may need to write an assessment or test. Follow the guidelines and ask questions. You'll also need to think about the way students will use the book. Many books follow Bloom's taxonomy. That's a system that classifies the different intellectual processes that go into learning. From simplest to most complex, the categories are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and effective domain. Each category contains numerous skills and processes, such as recall, compare, and persuade. Most books should have a variety of tasks. Often, the tasks move gradually from easy to difficult. Some lessons also address Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. This theory suggests that different people have different ways of learning. Some people process information best by writing, some by drawing, some by talking with others, some through physical activity, and so on. A variety of activities ensures that no student is left out in the cold. Multiple intelligences can be especially useful for reaching struggling students and English language learners. If you do any research, be prepared to document your sources for the fact checker, and make sure your sources are reliable. For example, most publishers won't accept material from Wikipedia as legitimate. Finally, you'll need to keep in mind what the final printed version will look like. Though you're not responsible for actual graphics and illustrations, you do need to think about their content. So you'll need to write production notes, like these. Some publishers want these highlighted. Some want them in boldface, some want them in brackets. The guidelines should tell you which is right for your project. Let's take a look at how these notes work. You may want to download the sample manuscript at www.upgradeeducation.com so you can follow along. This one says prod, or production, insert table. Then it breaks out the table's content, column by column. This one says WOL. That's a common abbreviation for write on line, a blank to fill in. This one just says bullet. That's because many of Word's formatting tools can get messed up when a file goes into layout software. Using a note like this, instead of the bullet tool, make sure your bullet list looks right. This one says art. It suggests an appropriate illustration for a story. You'll notice that the writer has listed the gender and the race of the characters, as well as the important action. Textbook illustrations must be inclusive. They must represent a diverse group of student populations so that schools cannot be accused of discrimination. Oftentimes during the editorial process, someone must go through and tally the number of races and genders represented in the illustrations. Many writers will specify diverse illustrations so things don't have to be changed down the line. It's a good habit to get into. From manuscript to layout. If you haven't already, you may want to listen to our e-lecture number 2, which discusses the stages of production in detail. For now, let's just say that the first stages of layout are messy. You'll notice that in many places the content is missing. The text probably has some less obvious problems too, such as typos. In books with many writers, problems such as inconsistent style and redundancy may only show up when all the text is finally assembled. Format problems, on the other hand, are blatant. Sometimes editors fix the problems in layout software, such as Adobe InCopy. Sometimes editors mark up these pages, like this. These marked up pages are called foul. Generally speaking, the later a change is made in the publication process, the more it costs in time, effort, and money. Once the book is in F&G, or folded and gathered pages, very few edits will be allowed. Any remaining mistakes are gathered in an errata list, like this one. The errata list is then distributed with the textbook, and any errors are fixed in the next edition. Once your lesson is written, you may be asked to write some supporting materials. This one is a reproducible, a worksheet or overhead that a teacher can copy. You can download this sample from www.upgradeeducation.com. Other supporting materials include web activities and online labs. We're still finding out how the web will shape educational publishing. Companies like Upgrade Education are leading the way, And you can count on Editorial U to keep you up to date on all the latest developments in the industry.
This e-lecture is made possible by Upgrade Education. Visit www.upgradeeducation.com for more free resources corresponding to this e-lecture. If you'd like to submit a question or a topic, please email us at editorialu@upgradeeducation.com. Thanks for attending Editorial U. Visit soon for more e-lecture releases.